So Catherine, you're a researcher from the University of Maryland, and you've got an interesting project that you're working on that I think our audience can help you get some, help get the word out. So tell us a little bit about yourself, and then let's learn about your research project.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. And thank you to the panelists and everybody for letting me jump in here today. As Steve said, I am a doctoral research assistant and student at the University of Maryland. And I'm working with the Horowitz Center for Health Literacy at the University of Maryland, where we've recently been funded through the CDC to understand more about vaccine confidence related to the COVID-19 pandemic. And so I really wanted to share this opportunity with your community today, because it's our main focus with one of our surveys is on Maryland caregivers, and really making sure that this group of people are who we hear from when developing different communication strategies and materials, to make sure that we're taking in the insights and experiences of the community when developing our different vaccine resources. And I know a few of you on the call today, so it's really exciting to see you, but I'm coming to Maryland from the world of cystic fibrosis and Alzheimer's over the last 10 years. And so I'm really excited to bring that experience into the University of Maryland to learn more about caregivers here in the state.
Great. And you can, you're going to share your contact information in the chat. And also, when I send the follow-up after this, I can send your contact information out, and hopefully we can get some subjects for you. What is the profile of the folks that you're looking for?
So we are fielding a survey that's about 20 to 30 minutes long, and we're looking for Maryland caregivers who provide unpaid care for family members or loved ones who have intellectual or cognitive disabilities. And I can share more about that, and you'll see that in the screener that I'm going to post in the chat. But basically looking for our Maryland residents to come out and support us.
Great. And what I say to you and all of the research folks that we bring on here to talk about your studies is, when you finish this, I would love to have you back on. I think this would be really interesting to hear the results of this study, because I don't think that vaccines are something that's going to be out of our life anytime soon.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the plan. We'll definitely be sharing back the results of this survey in our larger project with the community. So I'd be happy to come back and share more about that in a couple months when we're ready.
Okay, I love it. Well, I'm going to tuck you behind the curtain there. And now we are ready to bring on our panel, who's going to talk about Certified Caregiving Consultant Program. And that's Denise Brown, who is the founder of the Caregiving Years Training Academy, Dawnita Brown, who is a certified caregiving consultant and founder of the Binti Circle, who I really want to learn more about that, and Jennifer Ritchie, who's a certified caregiving consultant and founder of Brave Caregiving. Well, welcome to the three of you. And we've got some different time zones here. I think, Denise, where are you located?
I'm central, so I'm in Chicago.
Chicago. And Dawnita, you're in Baltimore, right down the street from me in Washington, D.C. And then Jennifer, I think you just woke up. You're in Orange County, correct?
Oh, it's late here. Yeah, no, it's 9 o'clock here in California.
Okay, great. Well, okay, let's first start to get to know the three of you. And I'll start with you, Denise. I've known you for years, but our paths just recently crossed. And when I learned about what you're doing now, I immediately wanted to share it with our audience. So give us a little bit about your background and kind of what led up to what you're doing now. And then we'll get to meet Dawnita and Jennifer, and then we'll get into the discussion of what is the Certified Caregiver Consultant.
Thanks so much, Steve, for having us. It's great to be with everybody today. Thanks so much for those who are joining us live too. So I started working with family caregivers in 1990, and we know each other, Steve, through a mentor that we both had, Mirka Liberty. She was so great at introducing people. It was really amazing. She was a force. So through Mirka and her belief in what I was doing, I continued my work by launching an online caregiving community in 1996. And I managed that until 2020 when I sold it to really focus on my training and development programs, leadership development programs for family caregivers. And in my constant connections with family caregivers, I really got this insight into we want to transform this caregiving experience so it turns into something bigger and better. The experience changes us, so why can't it change our work in the world? So in 2015, someone called me out of the blue and said, I love your concept of the 6 caregiving stages, which is a concept I developed in 1997. And she said, can you teach me how to present it? And so that started this Certified Caregiving Consultant training, which really is about family caregivers and former family caregivers taking what they learned in caring for a family member and then using my training, my insights about the caregiving experience and my life coaching skills to turn it into a small business or a volunteer opportunity. It's about helping those in a caregiving experience because we know how isolating and difficult it is. It's really about changing the caregiving experience for others behind us.
I love it. And, you know, when I heard what you were doing, it just made such great sense because I work with I talk to so many families that have helped their loved ones. And then they're just informally out there helping friends, family, and neighbors. And the idea to sort of create a certification and have a support group where people could do this more formally, whether it be as a business or even just still doing it free of charge, but you're tapping into a community of other people that are doing the same thing. It just makes great sense. So this is fantastic. So Dawnita, let's get to know you a little bit better. Tell us a little bit about your story and what you're doing now.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Yes, again, I am Dawnita Brown here in Baltimore, Maryland, for all of my East Coasters. So my caregiving journey, and like you were saying, Steve, it's something that we just do. So in 2015, my dad was diagnosed with multiple myeloma, and he lives in LA. So I was on the West Coast taking care of him. It's a treatable but not curable cancer, but he got better and life went on. And so in 2016, I answered the call to serve as a Peace Corps volunteer in Eswatini, Africa. And so I was on divine assignment for 2 years, closing out my service, planning this amazing close of service trip to Egypt, Ghana, Senegal, and August 5th, planning and everything. I got a call August 5th, 2018, that my mother was on life support here in Baltimore, Maryland. So I was 8,275 miles away and had to make the decision. She had to have a brain craniotomy because she suffered a subdural hematoma. And so I spoke with a neurosurgeon on the phone, thank God for WhatsApp. And I told him that, I agreed to the surgery. I'm an only child. I agreed to the surgery. And on August 6th, I was on a flight to Baltimore, Maryland, August 7th, where my feet hit US soil and went to neurocritical care at Bayview, Johns Hopkins, this Bayview campus of Johns Hopkins Medical Center. Caregiving became my life. And so I was just, studying caregiving. You get into this role, you just do what you need to do. So in terms of navigating the healthcare system, talking to the social worker about discharge and going to the rehab facility and, saying not agreeing to a discharge too soon. So appealing that with Medicare, Medicaid services, going to visit facilities to make sure that they're okay. Like all of these things that I was not prepared for. And on top of it, I was still readjusting to returning home. So after that was 2018. So after 2 years of it, I realized that one, caregivers need to care for themselves, because I lost myself in the very beginning. It was totally all about my mother. And two, and after, with the program with Denise researching, I realized discovered that there were not many culturally competent programs for people of color. And specifically a black, female, right? Even though, like you were saying, we kind of do it informally. There was always Big Mama was in the dining room, and that's what we did at family gatherings. We just took care of her. It was not we did not call it caregiver. And so I think it was kind of divine that I came upon Denise's program. I heard about it from a friend and colleague, Kim Street. She had done it years ago, but she was kind of in the throes of caring for her husband. And it just so happened, she didn't tell me about it for me to do it, but I remember her mentioning it. So when I discovered it online, I said, wait, that's the program. That's the program. I said, Kim, that's the program. And so I took advantage of the 3 training programs that Denise offers. She offers the Caregiving Consultant program, the Educator program, and the Facilitator program. And so being a full-time caregiver, it's a lot to take on, but because of the programming and the way that it's set up, it pushed me to do things like Facebook Live. And, I had to do an assignment which required me to do a Zoom meeting, host a Zoom meeting. So I just reached out to all of the daughters that I knew that were caring for their mothers, and then had this aha moment, like, this is a support group. And so I did research, and I discovered, like, hey, there aren't any support groups for us, to be quite frank. I discovered came across a support group called Daughterhood, and it's amazing. Like, the model is amazing, but I reached out, I haven't gotten a response back. That's another thing, but it didn't resonate with me because nobody looked like me, like, at all. And so I said, wait, we need a community. And that is how the Binti Circle came to be. And Binti means daughter in Swahili. And being that I lived on the continent, I see the importance of community and family. A lot of times we get lost in work and the rat race and all of that. But in Eswatini, family is, is there, and it's just what we do. So I named it that. And also I have Hey Caregiver, which is a lifestyle brand, which includes e-commerce and podcasts and all of these things. So to be honest, everything that I'm doing was kind of birthed through this program because it made me step outside of my comfort zone. It made me think about what I was doing as more than just being a caregiver, because you help people, they have questions and you direct them and you guide them and you show them. And then it's like, well, wait, there is a space for us to help in a formal way. Like you say, whether it's pro bono, but Denise gives you so much information. She's created so much information that you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Like the 6 stages that she's mentioned, we've all gone through them, but we didn't have a name for them, right? You didn't know. Yeah. But when you go through the program, you're like, oh, how is it? This is the expectant phase, or, this is the Godspeed phase, like I'm there. So those kinds of things you learn. And I think that this makes you put your education to the experience that you already had.
I love it. Yeah. As you were talking, I'm thinking, like, one thing that I often do is I like to draw comparisons from our elder care decision-making to other parts of our lives, because the elder care decision-making is so stressful. And because it ties into aging, the stigma tied to it can often be rather negative. But when you think about it, we're never going to stop. Personal caregivers, people that have gone through that experience, are never going to stop sharing their wealth of experience with their friends, families, and neighbors. But it's unstructured. It's hard to communicate because there's a lack of structure. And what I was thinking about is I just moved my first kid into college. Okay. And there's this whole informal network of people that have moved their kids into college, and they're doling out advice to you. And it's completely, mind blowing. They've got lots of great information for you. But I think that's what this program helps with. And it's exciting to see, Dawnita, is now, because now you're doing this in a more formal, structured way, you can help way more people than you would have had you not gone through Denise's program. This is exciting. Denise, before we jump in and meet Jennifer, how many folks have been through your training and program so far?
So we've had over 250, and we've had folks from 5 different countries. So Canada, United States, Middle East, Trinidad, and New Zealand. We actually have this really great outreach in New Zealand. Interestingly enough, we have this great consultant who's used government funding to help train additional family caregivers in New Zealand. It's really been amazing. And right now, currently we have 72 certified caregiving consultants.
I love it. No, this is great. Let's see, Jennifer, I'm going to meet you, but Dawnita, you've got a question, and it says, how is your mother and how is your father? Are you still caring for both of your parents? Are you willing to share?
Yes. So my dad is doing amazing. He just turned 72 in June 30th. He actually relocated to LA to pursue an acting career. So he's doing well. He was doing well enough that I felt it was okay for me to join the Peace Corps. Like, I felt like, you're healthy enough. I can go. I don't have any kids. I don't have any responsibilities. My mother, I am her full-time sole caregiver. She is bedridden. And for a long time, she couldn't speak. She couldn't do anything, but cognitively, she's doing so much better. And to me, I feel like she's doing amazing, even though she's not able to walk, but I try to create as much of our new normal, if you will. So I include her on everything. We sit out on our patio. She goes to family gatherings, and I do all that I can. So that's it. But her cognitive, I think that's so important. She didn't laugh. She was a tube feeder. So now she's eating. I still use the tube to hydrate her because we know that dehydration is a huge issue. But for me, she's doing great. She doesn't think it because she feels like she's trapped in her own body because my mother was very, very independent. But she's come a long, long way. And I attribute it to love and touch, skin, all of those things that, we don't really think about and don't consider. But I think that if you can, most people would like to age in place and die in place. So that's my goal for my mom. Like, these nursing facilities and just the stories that I hear. In fact, one of her caregivers is a former caregiver from the nursing home that she was in. And so she and I talk, and I've started a podcast as well. So I'm going to have her share her perspective. But I think that when you get someone that cares for your loved one the way that you do, it's an anomaly, to be quite honest, but you hold on to them. So I have one caregiver that helps me, but it's me. And she's doing fine. We can laugh and watch TV. So that's a huge win for me.
Great. No, that's great. And Jennifer, I promise I'm getting to you, but you said something, your father went to pursue an acting career. How old was he when he decided to pursue the acting career?
He was in his late 30s, and
late 30s. Okay.
Yes, he was in his late 30s. He's been gone for, I always got it because he left at 15. I'm 48 now. So he's been gone for 33 years, and he's doing well. He's on television. If you watch, it's All American. It's streaming on Netflix. And he was the barber on that.
Oh, that's great. No, that's great. Yeah, I thought you said he was 72, and I was sort of like, and he just left to do I was like, boy, we
No,
wanna
no,
have
no,
him
no. He
on.
was in his
Yeah.
30s. He's been living in LA that long. But I also
Okay.
say, you know, when you get older, you get wiser. If my
Oh, yeah.
father didn't leave to pursue that career, I don't think he would be here today. You
Yeah,
know, it's
that's
something
great.
about pursuing your dreams and the
Mhm.
lifestyle that he was living here in Baltimore. Although I was a teenager when he left,
Okay.
I told him, I said, I'm so grateful because I know I wouldn't have you if you were still here. So
Oh, I love it. Great.
thanks for
Okay.
asking.
Well, let's dive into Jennifer's story. Jennifer, and I was intentionally giving you a little extra time because I know you just woke up there in California. So no. So tell us a little bit about your story and how you became a
Yeah.
consultant.
Well, my father in, I want to say around 2015, or actually many years before that, he had been on and off the kidney transplant list. He was exposed to Agent Orange in Vietnam and had kidney failure. And so I helped with that a lot. And he finally got a kidney transplant and then ended up passing about 6 months later because of a infection. And so that was the beginning of my caregiving journey. And then about 2 years later, I moved in with my grandfather. He was 92 when we moved in. He had fallen and broken a hip and he lived alone. And we decided that this was the thing we needed to do, and lived with him for the last 5 years of his life. And he flew a plane on his 95th birthday. He was a pilot, and he went on the honor flight and to Washington, D.C. and got to see all the monuments and so many things that we were able to create for him that he would not have had we not been so involved. And you know, living with a 95-year-old man is an experience. So it was a lot of fun. And then most recently, my dad had passed in 2015, and my mom was very close to me, 4 miles away, but really lonely and had her own needs. And so we decided to renovate our home and add on an accessible suite for her, which I know people are not able to do, but luckily Grandpa had left us some money and we were able to do that and moved her in. And we expected her to be with us for years and years. And she just recently passed in December of 2020. So she was with us for a year. And all 3 of those experiences were really amazing and really hard. And so I had become a certified life coach in 2018, knew I wanted to work with caregivers, wasn't sure how, and just felt like I needed something else a little more tailored. And I had known about Denise and her programs because before I became a life coach, I had done a little Googling and saw her, and then went back to that and thought, this is perfect. This is exactly the perfect thing that will be able to integrate with my coaching experience. And it's been amazing. So, and then I've gone on to do the educator and the facilitator training as well pretty recently.
Great. Some amazing stories. So Denise, like, I can imagine that there are a variety of different sort of, I would call, profiles of people that are going to your training academy. It could be somebody that's new to the experience of caregiving and they want to do it on their own and they come to you in advance, you know, correct? Like, do you get any of those folks that kind of come in at the beginning to make the experience better?
Not for the consultant training, but I would really encourage anyone who's in that early stage to take one of our master classes, which walks you through the 6 caregiving stages as a way to really prepare. A lot of people will read the 6 caregiving stages to gain more information about what they can expect. really, we think of the consultant training as something for someone after caregiving ends, only because the intensity of the experience is so difficult. So Dawnita, for instance, already had a caregiving experience when she looked at the training program during her caregiving experience. And I think that's so helpful because so much happens and the intensity of the experience can sometimes shock you. And if you're helping others through an intense experience, you want to make sure that you are, for lack of a better expression, shock proof, right? You want to be able to manage someone else's shock because you've already been through all the shocks. There's a training program actually that we consider to be appropriate when you're in the midst of your first caregiving experience, which is the specialist training. And that's to become a personal assistant for family caregivers. So you help with scheduling, tasks. And I think of a family caregiver as really being the leader of an enterprise. A caregiving experience really is about managing a small business. So we think of the consultant as the coach for those in a caregiving experience. And then we think of the specialist as the virtual assistant for those in a caregiving experience. And I've really modeled it after my own small business experience. I have a coach and I have a virtual assistant, and both are really helpful. So just recently, my brother died. Unfortunately, he died 2 weeks ago. And I offloaded a lot of my responsibilities to my virtual assistant. And I think every family caregiver needs a coach who listens and helps with decisions and strategies and stress management. And they also need a specialist to offload some of the tasks and responsibilities so that you're not overwhelmed by everything. And I would also mention too that unless you've been in a caregiving experience, you can't understand what it's like. So I see a lot of resources available for family caregivers, but they are healthcare system driven. If you haven't been on the other side and been a consumer of the healthcare system, you can't understand what it's like to navigate that, which is what I think is so amazing about what we bring to the table. It's that understanding of what it's like to be in the cubby in the emergency room with your caree, to be trying to get a hold of a doctor during a crisis, and what it's like when it's the roller coaster, when it's not just even, there's that roller. To understand that roller coaster is so helpful. I just want to add one more thing. Oftentimes as family caregivers, we get so frustrated when we are trying to explain to people what it's like for us. So as consultants, we bring that understanding. So right away, we speak the same language and there's an immediate understanding. We don't have to waste time explaining to a consultant what it's like because they know what it's like.
Wow. So the prerequisite, which I love, is that you've been a caregiver. Now, Robin Hall asks, would you please provide the 6 caregiving stages? And while you were talking, I jumped online. Are these your stages here? Can you see those?
Yep.
Expectant caregiver, freshman caregiver, entrenched.
And I'll include a link in the chat room to a more expansive definition of those 6 stages.
But I'm thinking it wouldn't be a bit, and you wrote a book, The 6 Stages of Caregiving, correct?
Yes, so there's a handbook and I update it all the time, and I just recently updated it so that people have relevant, timely information, because I'll tell you what, caregiving changes. We saw it in the during the pandemic, it's all different now.
But would it be, I'm wondering, would it be, would you want to kind of run through these 6 stages real quick, just to give people a glimpse of?
Absolutely. So I came up with the 6 stages in 1997. Actually, there were 4. I added 2 in 1998. And it really was because people were coming to my online caregiving community and asking, oh my gosh, why me? Why now? What now? And I wanted to provide a framework that was flexible, that anybody could really get good information so they could feel okay today and then prepare a little bit for tomorrow. There's actually keywords in each of the 6 stages. So the expectant caregiver is thinking into the future, someone might need my help. We are all expectant caregivers, regardless of where we are in a current caregiving experience. We never know who might need our help. And the key word in this stage is to ask. Some people skip the freshman caregiver stage. Other people experience it where you're just starting to help out. Might be running errands. It might be accompanying a caree to doctor's appointments. It could be the first experience in the healthcare system. And in this stage, the key word is defined. And then the entrenched stage is just as it's described. Your experience is about caregiving. Your day is impacted by thinking about it, worrying about it, managing it, deciding about it. It is your life. And in this stage, the key word is to receive, which makes sense, but it's so hard to do, which is why it's good to be reminded to receive. And in the pragmatic stage, we get used to the surprises of caregiving. And in this stage, the key word is to welcome. And we welcome whatever is happening. We don't resist it so much. Part of the entrenched stage is resisting it. I don't want this. This is not the way I wanted my life to go. And in the pragmatic stage, we think, okay, you know what? The resistance has worn me out, so I'm just going to welcome what I feel. And it could be welcome the good emotions and welcoming the difficult ones as well. And then the transitioning stage is about our caree's end of life, but it's really about the transition that we go through. And this took me a long time to figure out. I knew it was transitioning, but I confused the transition. I thought it was all about our caree, when the reality is the transition here is about moving from doing to being. And that's a difficult transition when we are used to being this really active advocate. And in the transitioning stage, our keyword is to allow. We are transitioning before our caree's death and then after, because we are adjusting to life after caregiving ends. And then just maybe about 2 years after caregiving ends, we move into the Godspeed caregiver stage where we think, okay, I get life. When you are that close to death for so long, you have an insight about life that changes your perspective on life. And in the Godspeed stage, our keyword is to treasure. These keywords really are coping strategies. So at the end of caregiving, you have 6 coping strategies that you take into the rest of your life.
And that really kind of, those stages, I think, obviously, they're different for everybody. But at the end of that, you see that, okay, my caregiving has ended. But I think in the case of Dawnita and Jennifer, how can I help others? Because this is such a challenging process, and I can help make it more meaningful to people, because there really is, all of you guys have talked about the challenges, but you've also talked about the benefits of being a caregiver and helping your family and the positives that you've received. And it always frustrates me when I hear somebody who is just so frustrated and stressed out and they're not able to see the value of being a caregiver. So this is great.
Well, I think something that is misunderstood about caregiving, and I think of this as it relates to our carees. So the person who's receiving our care, the family caregiver, that family member who's providing care, and the direct care worker. We are looking to solve pain, and a caregiving experience is painful for all 3 of those individuals. And our goal is to minimize the pain, is to bring support in such a way that it feels less painful. And part of what is painful is that people don't understand. They don't get it. So we use skills so that a family caregiver feels understood. So not only do consultants bring that level of understanding, but they use this really specific communication technique that helps a family caregiver feel understood, not judged for what they feel, and not cheered up so that we feel better ourselves because we don't want someone to be in pain. We sit with someone in their pain, and that's very unusual. We are used to pain, and I think that's what we bring because of our caregiving experience, which is invaluable. We understand what it's like to be with a caree during painful days, which is why we can bring that level of expertise to our clients. We can be with them during their painful days, and our good company minimizes their stress and brings a relief to the pain.
Great. A few questions have been coming in. Somebody asked, where can the book be purchased? Is the best place to go to your website, Denise?
Yeah, and I will post the overview of the 6 caregiving stages, and there's a link to the book on Amazon. You can purchase there, and it's Kindle print.
Okay, so I got the Amazon link here. I'm dropping that one in. And what is your website verbally for everybody? The caregiving.
Yeah, it's 3 words. It's careyearsacademy.com.
Care Years Academy, great. And then Juanita, there's let's see, somebody here, it says, Kathy says, I have a friend who might want to partner with Dawnita. So if Dawnita and Jennifer, if you can both put your contact info into
Sure.
chat, that would be great. And this is really good. And I could see there being an opportunity here. It's Austin says he's with a family caregiving support coordinator with an area agency on aging. And I could see that your training would be fantastic for people working in the field of aging services that may have experienced, because again, so many times we come into this profession of elder care because of a personal experience. And this is not to disparage any other type of training out there, but it's sort of like, you know, what I hear a lot of people, they'll go to sort of maybe do certified senior advisors or something like that, which is a great certification, but not necessarily specific to the experience that you just went through as a caregiver and kind of structuring that for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're really specific to the family caregiver, and we look at what does the family caregiver need. So for instance, every month we host free family emergency planning sessions. Jennifer is one of our facilitators. We do breakout rooms to connect with family caregivers to help them put plans in place, because we know a plan can help with a worry. I really believe that every worry needs a plan. And oftentimes family caregivers are alone with the worries in their head, and that is a terrible place to be. So we help them figure out what's a plan for the worry. And the reality is when you say a worry out loud to someone who gets it, that's stress relief in itself. Oftentimes people will say to us, you are worrying for nothing. You know, statistics say 90% of what you worry about doesn't happen. The reality is in a caregiving experience, the worst has already happened. We are already, what we couldn't even worry about has happened to us. So that's why we pay attention to the worries. And rather than just someone minimizing the worries, we say, let's give air to them. Tell us what it is so that we can help you. And so the family emergency planning session helps. And then the consultants can meet with clients one-on-one to create those plans for that particular situation. We are just starting a respite in place plan because we know during the pandemic, we didn't have respite programs that were effective for family caregivers. I really believe we need to have a place in our house, in our yard, in our communities that gives us a break. And Dawnita, you've done a lot of work to make your house respite.
Yes, yes. In fact, I walk through, I say, thank you, God, for my home. I love my home. The backyard, I'm actually looking right out there. I've done a lot of gardening and planting. It's amazing. And so I just go out there, and in the winter, I go down the basement, and I've just created spaces in my home that I can just get away, you know, from. And if you're taking care of a loved one, sometimes they call you and call you and call you and call you. And so I have to tune her out sometimes, but I have places in my home where I could go, and I'm so grateful for it.
And, you know, one thing, because we talked about housing, Jennifer, I was so thrilled that you brought up modifying a home to
Mhm.
make it safe and accessible, because that's a topic that we talk about a lot here. And so often people try to retrofit, which can actually make a more unsafe environment. And Dawnita and Denise, on the issue of caregiver burnout, which I think you've just addressed here, Dawnita, Mike Perlman says, one issue that arrives is caregiver burnout. Have you found any general tendencies in this regard, on set, what have you? Any guidance on caregiver burnout for all three of you?
Well, I like I said, initially I was, and then I realized, I can't do this. Like, this is not sustainable. And so while in the program and doing research, I discovered this term called selfullness. And so that's kind of like my mission and the philosophy that I live by, and that I want to really have the caregiving community live by. And it's basically that sweet spot between selfish and selfless. So many times as caregivers, we feel like if we do anything for ourselves, if we walk away, if we, go outside for a minute, we're being selfish. But on the flip side of that, because we're caring, we constantly give of ourselves and then we disregard ourselves. And so that's the selfless. Neither one of those are healthy or sustainable. We think that, when we think of being selfless, you give of yourself and you give back. But a lot of times you give so much that you're depleted and you can't give anything to anybody else. So that selflessness is the marriage of the two, the selfish and selfless. And you have this selfull, right? And so that is what I do. There are some things that I do on my own. There are some things that my mom, like I say, she's bedridden, but I can set her up so she can paint, those things are her own. And then there are those things that we like to do together. So watch TV, watch game shows, play cards, eat crabs, those things that we like to do together. So I am getting my fulfillment, right? And she's getting her fulfillment. Everybody's happy. So I think that when we think about, instead of thinking about, oh my gosh, I can't do this, or I have to do this, and look at it as, what can I do to create something where we both can enjoy it? Then that is where that's ideal. Not that it's going to be like that every day, but for me, that's my general philosophy that I've learned to live by after being burnt out and after doing having these unhealthy habits, because you eat, you do these things that aren't healthy and it's counterproductive, and then you realize, like, again, this is not sustainable. So after being at that point, I've learned this. So I want to be able to help other people get it right at the onset, so they don't have to get to where I was. I hope that answers this question.
I just will follow up really quickly. So I really believe that compassion fatigue is an umbrella term for all that we grow weary of. And we have to get specific about what we are tired of. We talk about this in the consultant training, and I actually have a book that's called Healing Words that talks about what can you do for 12 different reasons for your caregiving fatigue, your compassion fatigue. We get tired of trying. We get tired of feeling guilty. We get tired of grieving because the loss is throughout our caregiving experience. Mm-hmm. And if we can get specific, then we can figure out, what do I need today? This is what I'm weary of. And it really helps give us the words to describe what's wearing me out.
And for me, with the burnout, what I have found, and what I found with my mom, was the biggest source was that I wanted things to be different. I wanted her to be different. I wanted my interactions to be different. I was resisting the reality of all of it. And as soon as I had the tools, but I was still doing it. And so when I finally just allowed things to be, and to, like, this is how it's happening, and this is the reality, and you've got to figure out how to manage it. And that's what I help people do now, is really to stop hating their lives, because it's pervasive.
Yeah. And to piggyback on that, I'm sorry, Jennifer, but yes, it's like, and like with my mom, I say, this is our new normal, right? So this is what it is. And like you say, kind of going with the flow. And to your point too, I've also created an environment where it doesn't feel like she is bedridden. So everything is covered. You know, I just try to create a warm, welcoming space so it's not a constant reminder of her, you know, her condition now. So behind this panel is a wheelchair. So, you know, I just did things like that in the home. And you were talking about, you know, modifications and all. It's like, what can you do that doesn't cost any money? You know, cover up chucks with fabric, or I covered up her commode with fabric. So, you know, those are just some small things that you could do. And it helps mentally, you know, for you and your carry, to be quite honest, because there is not that constant visual reminder. We know what it is, but you don't have that constant reminder of a chair here and, you know, walker here, you know, those kinds of things.
Great ideas and feedback there.
And one last thing, I'm sorry, changing the language, you know, don't call them Pampers, call them briefs. You know, when my mom goes to the bathroom, she says, I have a spill on aisle 1. And I say, okay, cleanup coming on aisle 1. You know, those kinds of things where it's not like I peed on myself. I mean, that's really, you know, sometimes I say, let's change this language up so that it doesn't feel, you know, like that.
Oh, the words that we use are so powerful, and I love that. And doing things to have fun with this, and as long as our elder and the caregivers are in communication with that, you know, one of the things that we talk about a lot on these discussions is ageist language, and sometimes we're saying something that we think is cute that, you know, might be kind of disparaging, but as long as there's good communication between the elder and the caregiver and it's positive, that's great. Someone asks, which certifications or standards govern becoming a certified caregiving consultant?
So right now it's the standards that I've set through the Caregiving Years Training Academy. We are going to split training and certification in the fall. And there's going to be a nonprofit who sets the standards so that if you don't want to go through my training, but you still want to become a certified caregiving consultant, there is a separate entity that actually sets the standard. And I really have set the standard based on my experience as a life coach. So I went through life coach training in 2004, and I followed that model of the profession. And that's what happened with life coach training. There were actually training programs, and then there was a movement to actually create certification entities. And that's what we're going to do. Now that we have this great framework, we figured it out.
I love it.
Yeah, the consultants have been so great and helpful in telling me, what do they need from the training? What is missing? What can I add? And so now that I've figured it out, we're going to separate it into 2 entities.
I love it. And you know, I mean, Denise, both of us are entrepreneurs, and we've got many entrepreneurs and business people in the audience. And one of the things that we talk about is every one of us has had to modify our operations radically in COVID. And, you know, the fact that you've got out there and you've sort of pioneered this segment, and it's been tested out and done, and you've got your first round of pioneers here, is so exciting. And I've seen this progression with the aging life care profession, with the senior move management profession, the daily money management profession, and it's really pretty cool that now caregivers, when they go through this experience, they're going to have an opportunity to better serve the world, thanks to a program like this. This is pretty neat. So, wow, I glanced down at the clock, and I can't believe that another hour is almost over. So what I will say is that if you all have any sort of closing words of wisdom that you'd like to share, and I'll sort of make this the last call for anybody in the audience that has an additional question that they'd like to throw out there. But I'm really excited to have introduced our community to what you all are doing. This is really, really exciting.
We so appreciate it, Steve. Thank you for this. And if anybody's interested in really experiencing our work, please think about joining our family emergency planning session, which is on the fourth Friday of every month at 1 p.m. Eastern time. And
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you about earlier. So is there a cost to that, or can anybody attend that?
anyone can attend it. It's free. And if you're looking for CEUs, certified dementia practitioners, and certified senior advisors, as well as nurses in 50 states, can earn 1 CEU for attending. And we have information on the website, caregiversacademy.com.
Okay. And I knew I cut you off on that, but these sessions are great for people that are in the throes of caregiving or providers as well, correct?
Absolutely. We find that if someone who is joining just for CEUs, what happens is they think, I'm a professional, I'm just here to get a CEU. Then they realize they need a family emergency plan. So it kickstarts their own personal family emergency plan. It's really interesting. And I also will say too, we find this, that people are like, I've not been a family caregiver. And then they come to one of our events and they're like, oh my gosh, I cared for, and they realize they've been in caregiving experiences throughout their life. It's just that they didn't have the insight about it.
Okay, well, I'm going to add all of these to our calendar because that's a great resource for our professional community, but mainly, I'm looking for resources for our older adults and the family members that are out there. Okay, I knew this was going to happen. More people start asking questions. So Robin's.
Go ahead.
Oh, yeah.
I just want to add, so you can join us for 50 minutes. It's free. And then if you want to have your own personal plan, you can actually book a session with one of our certified caregiving consultants, 30 minutes, and it's $40.
Okay. Wow. That's great. Okay. Very formatted. This is fantastic. Robin says, I'm interested in the upcoming certification training. Will you list those? So just make sure. Yeah. Where on your website? When I go to careyearsacademy.com, would that be under the event section?
So for certifications for the training programs, if you just click on certifications, which is one of the menu items, that actually gives you the overview.
Okay,
and
great.
Then there's lots of great information about the different levels of training. And you also can schedule a time with me if you'd like. And
Great.
You'll find that on the website too. And there's assessments that you can do too to figure out which is the right training program for you. So we have assessments that take maybe about 2 minutes that ask you, okay, here's what do you want to do? Here's the training program that's right for you.
Okay. And then somebody asks, can you expand on the differences between facilitator, educator, and not clear about the 3 roles?
Yeah, so the consultant training is basically life coach training for family caregivers. You can take the next level once you complete the consultant training to become an educator. And as an educator, you have the proprietary turnkey presentation on the 6 stages. And we teach you how to deliver that in 3 different ways. And then we actually give you insights to tailor it even more specifically to your experience in your situation. And then the facilitator training is to lead support groups. So if you're thinking, I wonder if this is right for me, what's Denise like as a trainer? You could start with the facilitator training, which is 4 hours live. You'll be ready to launch a support group after that training. And then you might think, okay, now I know I need more. I'm going to sign up for the consultant training.
Okay, great. All right. Well, I knew that was going to happen. And now we're pretty much right at 1 o'clock and that would be 10 o'clock where Jennifer's at. But I really want to thank you all. And okay, one more. Jennifer, can you talk about the housing addition for your mother? AARP has a webinar about adding backyard additional housing, which is so interesting. We think this is on-demand viewing on the AARP website. They seem to have a guide. Many family groups are using this. So yeah, I love talking about modifying homes. So Jennifer, if you want to just share maybe just an overview of some of the things that you did.
Yeah. We added on to our current home on the front. We have a neighbor who has the exact same floor plan as us, and he had an open house, and we went and thought, this is amazing. So we basically just added a large bedroom and recreated the bathroom. So we really only added one room onto the house, and we added under 500 square feet. So we did not have to have an additional permit, which was nice. But it, there were many permits involved. Had we only done that, it would have taken maybe 3 to 4 months. We then, as renovations go, decided we needed to redo our kitchen and like everything else. But that was good because we made sure that my mom was in a scooter, a power scooter. And so we made sure that it was wide enough for her. The bathroom, she had sort of a makeshift accessible bathroom in her home and a ramp that was not great, but you do what you can. And we literally took the specs of that bathroom and put it here because she was terrified that, the toilet wouldn't be the right place or high enough, or the grab bars would be in the wrong place, because she had been doing this transfer herself for so long. If it's off by 1 inch, she's on the ground. And the contractor was amazing, and he had done some work for his aunt as well. You can get, I believe, grants and things from the VA. We were not eligible for that because my dad was fully disabled and received benefits from the VA. So my mom would have been eligible, but income wise, she wasn't. So yeah, it was a great experience as renovations go. I have to say.
Thanks for sharing that. And also for the audience, if you look in chat, Melissa from Handy Pro is in the audience, and their company will assist you in making modifications like that. So make sure that you reach out to her if you've got some questions. Like, the theme of today with this profession and, getting help with all this is you don't need to walk this road alone. You don't need to walk this road alone if you're a caregiver. You've got great resources like the Certified Care Program. But if you want to help other caregivers, you don't need to walk that road alone either, because if you join this program, you're going to be part of a community that are all trying to do the same thing. And that's what's so wonderful about these online discussions is we help make those connections. So, all right. Well, I love this, and I look forward to I'm glad I got to meet all of you, and I look forward to our audience connecting with you. And keep up the good work, and keep us posted as the Certified Caregiving Consultant program grows and changes.
Thank you so much, Steve. This was awesome. And thanks to everybody for your questions too and your interest. I'll follow up with everybody that expressed an interest.
Thank you. Okay.
Thanks for having us.
See you, Dawnita and Jennifer. Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.